Lewis Hamilton, the seven-time world champion many had written off, just put his Ferrari on the second row in Mexico. It's his best qualifying result since joining Ferrari, breaking a 19-race drought without a podium start. He beat both Russell and Verstappen on pure pace, silencing critics who said the Brit was finished. Inside the team, Ferrari's engineers were left genuinely amazed not just by the lap time, but by how Hamilton transformed a struggling SF-25 into a weapon under the thin air of Mexico City. All season long, Hamilton had carried the burden of a narrative he didn't deserve, that his move from Mercedes had been a mistake, that his age had dulled his edge. But in Mexico, the stopwatch told another story. Missing FP1 had left him a full hour of running behind his rivals, yet he absorbed data like only a champion can. Every braking trace, every steering angle became a clue. By FP3, he had re-engineered the car's confidence through instinct. Ferrari's engineers later said they'd never seen anyone read telemetry the way he did, not with algorithms, but with intuition refined over 2 decades. As qualifying began, the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez was a furnace of pressure. Drivers wrestled with gripless tarmac and cooling problems that turned every lap into a gamble. But Hamilton thrived in the chaos. While others overslid through the opening sequence, he balanced aggression with restraint, extracting downforce from air that barely existed. His steering was calm, deliberate, surgical. In a car that punished impatience, Hamilton drove like time itself had slowed for him. Ferrari's radio engineers, usually a chorus of stress, stayed silent because they knew they were watching something special unfold. When he crossed the line at the end of Q3, the timing screens blinked. Third fastest, only 0.3 from pole. For a driver who hadn't started in the top 3 all season, that number meant more than position. It meant vindication. Inside the Ferrari garage, technicians applauded softly, some almost in disbelief. After 19 races of frustration, the heptuple champion had delivered a lap that felt like a confession of greatness. It wasn't loud, it wasn't flashy, it was precise, calculated, and deeply human. When the dust of qualifying settled, the timing sheet told a story that statistics alone couldn't capture. Hamilton's final lap, a 1 minute 15.938, placed him just over 0.3 behind Lando Norris's McLaren, a machine that had dominated the aerodynamic evolution of the season. In pure mechanical terms, that gap was nothing short of extraordinary. Ferrari had brought no new components to Mexico, not a single aerodynamic update since Austin. And yet Hamilton's feedback and precision had extracted performance that simulations hadn't predicted. He turned a car defined by instability into one capable of fighting for the front row. It wasn't the engineers that closed the gap, it was the driver. Throughout the weekend, telemetry revealed something subtle but defining. Hamilton's throttle application in Sector 1 was 20% smoother than his teammates. Where Leclerc compensated for oversteer with aggression, Hamilton reduced it through rhythm. In a track that punishes heavy hands, that small difference meant tire energy stayed within its thermal window for longer. The result, consistent grip across all 3 sectors. Ferrari's engineers described his driving data as calm and lethal. That balance between mechanical sympathy and precision, developed over decades, was what had kept him alive through years of championship pressure, and now it was saving Ferrari's season. Behind the numbers lay something even more profound: emotional endurance. 19 races without a podium start had tested Hamilton like never before. He had shattered a 43-year-old Ferrari record, the longest streak without a top 3 start for any driver wearing red. Yet there was no bitterness in his demeanor, only focus. His interviews in the paddock had changed tone. Gone were the frustrations of mid-season. Now he spoke with clarity. We're not there yet, but I can feel the progress. That humility, combined with persistence, became contagious. Even inside Maranello, team morale lifted. The technicians began referring to him as Il Professor della Calma, the Professor of Calm. What Ferrari discovered through that weekend was that performance is not always linear. On paper, the SF-25 remained a flawed concept, aerodynamically sensitive, brutally complex under braking. But Hamilton managed to find its rhythm through adaptation, not resistance. He didn't fight the car. He learned its imperfections until they became advantages. His late braking through Turn 1 was 2 meters deeper than any Ferrari had achieved all year. It wasn't risk, it was calculation. The kind of micro-adjustment that separates world champions from fast drivers. When engineers reviewed the data, they realized he'd achieved the improvement without changing hardware, only by refining his braking pressure curve by fractions of a second. The effect inside Ferrari was immediate. During debrief, Fred Vasseur, not known for exaggeration, called Hamilton's approach a masterclass in understanding imperfection. The engineers who had been demoralized after Austin suddenly believed again in their own creation. They saw that under Hamilton's guidance, even a flawed chassis could be competitive. His relationship with the team began to evolve from newcomer to architect, from frustrated star to trusted compass. For Ferrari, that mattered as much as the lap time itself. And perhaps the most compelling part? Hamilton didn't treat this as a miracle. To him, it was simply the consequence of work of thousands of micro-decisions of preparation that began weeks before. He had spent hours in Ferrari's Maranello simulator analyzing the brake-by-wire data for high-altitude conditions, noticing patterns that even the algorithms had missed. When asked if he expected the performance, he answered quietly, "Yes, because it's the result of logic." That single line summed up his entire philosophy: speed built not on emotion, but on understanding. At the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez, the laws of physics bend differently. At over 2,200 meters above sea level, air pressure drops to around 780 hectopascals, 20% less dense than at sea level. That means less downforce, less cooling, and less forgiveness. For most drivers, it's chaos. But for Lewis Hamilton, Mexico became an equation to solve. From the moment he turned into the first corner in FP2, he could feel the car breathing differently. The brakes overheated too quickly, the rear danced unpredictably, and yet he processed it all with calm precision. "It's like driving underwater," he said later, and somehow he found air where there was none. Ferrari's SF25 had struggled all year with one fatal flaw: ride height sensitivity. A few millimeters too high or too low, and the floor would lose aerodynamic efficiency. In Mexico's thin air, that weakness should have worsened. Yet Hamilton turned it into an advantage. He asked for a slightly softer rear suspension setting, a counterintuitive move that stabilized braking loads and allowed the diffuser to work in cleaner airflow. Engineers were skeptical at first. The simulations disagreed. But Hamilton insisted on trying it in FP3, and the stopwatch confirmed his instinct. In a single session, he reduced rear instability by nearly 10%. Then came braking. Mexico's turns 1 and 4 are notorious, long straights followed by violent deceleration zones where carbon discs reach over 1,000 degrees. Early in FP2, Hamilton locked up twice, the car snapping wide into the runoff. Most would have blamed the system. He blamed timing. Overnight, he spent hours with his race engineer Riccardo Adami recalibrating the brake migration, adjusting how the car transfers braking force between front and rear axles as it slows. It's a small change invisible to fans, but transformative for a driver's confidence. The next morning, he braked 8 meters later into turn 1. No lockup, no drama. Ferrari's data engineers couldn't believe it. What made that improvement possible wasn't magic, it was Hamilton's ability to feel what sensors can't describe. He often says that cars talk, and Mexico proved it. In a world of digital feedback loops, his greatest weapon remains analog, human sensitivity. Where telemetry showed minor oscillations, Hamilton sensed rhythm. His corner entries became smoother, his throttle exits more progressive. The SF25 began to look planted, composed. "He's driving it like a different car," one Ferrari mechanic whispered as they watched the live feed. In truth, it wasn't the car that had changed, it was the driver translating chaos into coherence. Aerodynamics also played their part. Every team had brought in large brake ducts and high downforce wings to compensate for Mexico's rarefied atmosphere. But Hamilton demanded something else, a micro-adjustment of the rear beam wing angle, just enough to regain balance without compromising drag. The tweak was barely visible to the naked eye, but it transformed mid-corner stability. During FP3, Ferrari's engineers noticed that Hamilton's minimum speeds through turns 7 and 8 were the highest of any car on the track, faster than Norris, faster even than Verstappen. It wasn't horsepower that made the difference, it was airflow mastery guided by intuition. When qualifying began, all the pieces came together. The SF25 felt alive under him, not perfect, but predictable. As he braked into turn 1, the car's nose dipped precisely where he wanted, the rear followed obediently, and his hands remained still. It was the product of mechanical bravery and scientific understanding fused in one man. By the time he crossed the line in Q3, Ferrari's telemetry confirmed what everyone had sensed. Hamilton had driven a car at 100% of its potential, no more, no less. That's the hallmark of greatness, not going beyond limits, but knowing exactly where they are.